Once upon a time, a farmer's daughter from a small village called Lucas became a student at Hope College. We see Helen Taylor in front of the stately Dimnat Chapel. With a college president's home in the background, she models her Sunday dress, including hat and gloves. The very first weekend, she met me, a seminary student. It was love at first sight. Later, she invited me to her sorority's formal party. Over 2 years later, there were bridal parties and gifts to unwrap. Lots of gifts to unwrap. And a cake to serve, with the help of Mom Taylor and Eleanor Bode. Meanwhile, the men of the wedding party were enjoying a dune scooter ride at Spring Lake and Lake Michigan. This sand hill was a real challenge for the scooter. The extensive sand dunes made you think you were in the Sahara Desert. The top of the dune gives a nice view of Spring Lake. It was a beautiful day for the wedding rehearsal. From right to left are Helen, Marcia Hulls, Dave Mack, Stanley Yin, Harris and Jane Verkuyk, Sister Doris, and Brother Tim, with Brother Len walking toward them. Tim and I carefully delivered the wedding cake. Bride and groom have much reason to be happy. From left to right are Sister Muriel, Lois Hensley, Sister Doris, Helen and I, Brother Tim, Harris Verkuyk, and Dave Mack, with Stanley Yin in the front pew. I was grateful for the presence of my brothers, Tim and Len. We cut the cake as family and friends looked on. Doris and Tim did a creative job decorating our Chevrolet coupe. This is the next morning at the Traverse City Motel. The trip north took us by the Lake Michigan beach at Charlevoix. Up ahead is the Mackinac Bridge. Crossing the bridge is always an exciting event. Our honeymoon cabin was in a beautiful setting on Milakokia Lake. There were deer tracks on the lake shore, and a happy bride enjoyed the walk. The next day included a walk on the beach of Lake Michigan. At the Sault Ste. Marie locks, we found these attractive flowers, and we watched as a freighter entered the locks. It was a tight fit. Someone there took our picture at a fountain. We returned to the Taylor farm to prepare for our trip to Mexico City. But there was still time for a picnic with Lois and Pete. Packing the car for our trip to Mexico City was a real challenge. The whole family was there to give us a loving send-off. From left to right, Sisters Doris and Jean, Mom and Dad Taylor, Brother Keith, Sister Lois and her husband, Peter Dizou. Upon arrival in Mexico City, Helen began studying Spanish. We found a new apartment on the Toluca Highway near Mexico City College. Now our apartment is ready for Christmas. The roof of the apartment building provided a place to soak up some sun. Mexico City at Christmas was a spectacular sight from the Latin American building. The monument to the Revolution was brightly lit, as was the cathedral at the Zocalo, and the other government buildings surrounding the Zocalo. On December 12, the Mexicans gather at the Shrine of Guadalupe to celebrate the Virgin of Guadalupe. A long line of pilgrims were arriving for the celebration. Crawling to the church on your knees was a sign of sincere devotion. The object of their devotion is a painting on a cloth of the Virgin Mary. The celebration included groups of native dancers. It also included an enactment of a battle between warriors. At the end of the Paseo de la Reforma is the statue called Niños Héroes, the heroic children. This is a monument to the young military cadets who died defending the Chapultepec fortress on the hilltop during the American invasion of 1847. Chapultepec Park is a restful and attractive area. Chapultepec is an Aztec word meaning grasshopper hill. It even includes a small lake. The Monument to Independence is the centerpiece of the Paseo de la Reforma. It features the Golden Angel of Liberty. Mexicans know how to celebrate, and they love a parade. These soldiers are marching past the Independence Monument. Army tanks are included in the parade. The crowds are dense, and some climb the statues for a better view. The University of Mexico has spectacular buildings. This mural evidently pictures the eager pursuit of knowledge. With Helen in the foreground, the library building is in the background. The library is decorated in Aztec art. The statue is Miguel Alemán, the President of Mexico. Outside of Mexico City is the huge pyramid of Teotihuacan, built by the Toltecs, who preceded the Aztecs. There was also a smaller pyramid that features the feathered serpent god, the Aztec god of learning and of the priesthood. They called him Quetzalcoatl. The Mayans called him Kukulkan, meaning feathered serpent. We visited the famous market in Toluca, west of Mexico City. The streets were filled with merchandise and people. During spring vacation, we drove down to Acapulco and rented this house. Accompanying us were 2 American students who are relaxing in the hammocks. The Pacific coast is spectacular. Acapulco's harbor is Mexico's primary harbor on the Pacific coast. The Mexican Navy has some ships stationed there. Acapulco's hotels and beaches are very attractive. We protected ourselves from the bright sunlight by sitting in the shade of this beach shelter. We did venture into the water, but not very far, especially since the waves churned up a lot of sand. We still got too much sun that day, especially from the afternoon reflection off the water. Our study in Mexico City ended abruptly when we were told to go to Washington, D.C. to pick up our immigration papers at the Mexican Embassy. Our arrival there gave us this view of the Washington Monument. Later we got a better view from the Lincoln Monument. We walked to the Capitol building and we looked at the Jefferson Monument. Returning home, we packed all our possessions in barrels and added a washing machine, light plant, and a foam rubber mattress. Mexico, here we come.